Welcome to the Create a Life You Love podcast, the go-to podcast for people who are called to make a positive impact through the power of coaching. You'll hear encouraging stories from coaches sharing their journeys and their lessons learned along the way, tips from top experts who help coaches thrive in their life and their business, and so much more. So if you're ready to create a business and a life of impact that you love, let's get started. Hello, everybody. We're so excited to be back. Welcome to this episode of the Create a Life You Love podcast. I am Chantal Cox. I'm an author, a speaker, a transformation NeuroCoach, and a certified life purpose coach.
Yay, we're back. And I'm Guin White, quantum human design specialist and a positive intelligence coach.
Together, Guin and I are on a mission to dramatically transform and create community in the coaching industry. And we are doing that by supporting you and saying no to all of those complicated cookie cutter strategies because they just lead to burnout. And instead, we are empowering you to say yes to simplification with a focus on alignment, service, and impact.
Yes. With our combined experience and areas of expertise, we are here to help you create that aligned momentum you are looking for in your business and your life.
Yes, and huge shout out. I am so sorry I might butcher your last name, but it is done with love. So big shout out to Deborah Ajayi. And she left a beautiful review for us on Podchaser. She said, "This is one great podcast to listen to. Awesome coach, awesome guests, creating a stream of content to look forward to for a better life."
Woohoo! Nice. And nice that it comes from Podchaser. That's great. Thank you, Deborah AJ. And again, hopefully we're pronouncing that right. We really appreciate your feedback and your sharing. And before we get going with today's episode, a quick shout out to our sponsor, a new sponsor, the AI Coach Connection. This is an active and growing community of passionate, purpose-driven coaches who share a passion for learning and exploring how artificial intelligence tools and resources can empower them in their businesses and lives. So for more information, check out AICoachConnection.com today. And of course, we'll have that link in the show notes.
Absolutely. So far, we've brought you a few episodes highlighting ways that you can use AI in your business. And so we're super excited about today's episode because we're going to share a masterclass that we recently hosted in our recently launched community, the AI Coach Connection community. And that's done with our collaboration partner, Bruce Fleck, PhD. What's up? And you will totally get the opportunity to meet him in a future podcast episode.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we are excited about bringing this to you. If you're a coach who's interested in learning more about this technology, particularly the tech that you can use to help start and run and grow your business, then AI Coach Connection, the WhatsApp group is definitely worth checking out. And as well, our newly formed online community, which now boasts over 100 members. We're all about leveraging the power of AI and tech tools in your coaching business in a safe, responsible, and aligned way, of course. And best part, it's completely free. So please join us.
Yes. We will get the link to our website in the show notes because it's got a fun little beautiful green button with a quick little form you'll fill out, and then it's going to give you all the things that you need to get in there and make the most of your experience with our amazing free new AI Coach Connection. And so really one of my favorite things about it, along with everything I'm learning from everyone else, is just how global the community is and how it's growing. There are people from every corner of the world in there, and just the synergy and just the momentum in there is really, really inspiring.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. We have people also, not just from all ends of the globe, but all forms of coaching and consulting. And so, yeah, there's people on the technology spectrum as well. So we have people who are brand new, and then those who have more experience. So we're finding within our community, everyone is supporting each other in the best ways and getting, exactly what they need and want from their experience with AI Coach Connection, the community. And of course, today we're diving more deeply into AI, this thing that's becoming increasingly important in the world at large, as well as in the coaching world and in your coaching business. So we are featuring yet another visionary guest with us who is a trailblazer and expert in this field.
Absolutely. So today we are highlighting the amazing Darby Rollins. He's the founder of the AI Author. And something I find so fun, if you know about Jasper, the other AI tool, like the pre-ChatGPT amazing tool that has existed for a while, Darby was Jasper's first ever user. Talk about a trailblazer. So he's just been ahead of the game for years when it comes to AI. So we were super excited to get to learn from him and interact with him. And today we will be sharing Darby's insights about how to navigate the AI world as a coach.
Absolutely. And this particular masterclass is in an interview form. As we mentioned, it's hosted by our collaborator and friend and partner, Bruce Fleck. And Darby's mission is to share with coaches what they must know in order to adapt and succeed with AI. So we're really excited for you to experience what we have to bring today.
Absolutely. He brings just such amazing expertise and insights. So let's just dive right into this exclusive masterclass interview. And if you are tuning in with audio only and not currently able to view the video, you'll still get a ton of value. And this might be a really good episode, hint, hint, to come back and rewatch later when you have access to video. And you can find all of our episodes on our YouTube channel, and we'll get that linked in the notes also.
Darby is the CEO and founder of the AIauthor.com. He's co-founder of another business called Play Side Hustle, or at Play Side Hustle. No, it's just called Play Side Hustle, isn't it? That's a board game you created. He's also an AI strategist in the luxury real estate market. And most notably, he was probably, he was Jasper's number one customer in the world. So that's how he got started a few years ago. And although it was just 2020, it's been AI years. So it feels like dog years or even faster, right? My personal experience with Darby is I found him last fall when I was, learning a little bit about AI, and found his 7-day book writing challenge using Jasper. And I've had the opportunity to work with him on several projects now. I've been in several classes, and what I love about Darby is, to me, he represents the new generation of what an AI empowered entrepreneur looks like. He's super hardworking. There's just, he doesn't bring hype. He's a very humble guy, but he just gets out there and kicks ass, and is collaborating with all different kinds of people, bringing great value to his community. So I feel lucky to have found Darby and have the opportunity to work with him. So welcome, Darby. Got any initial comments you'd like to start with before I start pounding you with some questions?
I'll just thank you for the kind introduction and having me join you here, Bruce. It's been great to see you put everything into action inside of the community, and a direct result of what AI can do to help accelerate your business. And so it's cool to come and share with your own community a little bit about my experience. Hope it's useful for everybody here.
It will be. It is. So okay, think back about 4 years ago, 3 years ago. Why did you decide to become Jasper, or at that time was called Jarvis's first customer, and start down this whole Gen AI path? I saw an old picture of you. You were a baseball player, I believe, in college, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct? Yep. And then what'd you do when you got out of college?
Well, I got out of college, blew my arm up pitching, and went into the corporate rental car business. Believe it or not, that was where things kind of started. far away from the AI space. And I mean, that was back in 2015. So it's not like ChatGPT was even a twinkle in anyone's eye, or maybe to some
Elon's.
degree, but yeah. Yeah, very,
And
very young, and definitely AI was not really a topic of conversation back then.
right. And so then how did you find Jasper or Jarvis at the time, and then decide to become their first customer?
Yeah, so I mean, that was back when Jasper, then actually Conversion AI was what it was called at the
Okay.
very, very beginning, before they branded to Jarvis, to then rebranding to Jasper. I was in the middle of running an e-commerce consulting agency at that time in my life. I don't do as much e-commerce consulting right now, as AI, like education, takes most of our time with what we're doing at the AI Author. But at that point, I was consulting with brands on their Amazon listings and doing a lot of that. And so I'd help brands like create listings on Amazon. I'd been doing e-commerce for a few years, and I was pretty burnt out at that point because I'd been doing a lot of different things, and I guess like burning the candle, at both ends, so to speak. And as a copywriter, and like someone who's doing copy for other clients and Amazon listings, which a lot of times are very boring to write, or you have to spend a lot of time crafting and organizing it. It was a lot. And my roommate at the time, Austin Distel, is the CMO at a company called Proof Technologies, which is the company that owns Jasper. And they just got access to OpenAI at that point. I was Austin's roommate. He's like, hey, we got this really cool AI access. And they were trying to use it for Facebook ads. And they were trying to figure out where they were going. Their company's primary product is a tool called Proof, which is like a little social media conversion widget that you've probably seen some offshoot of what that was on a website. This person bought a product 5 minutes ago. This person just ordered another product, right? So they kind of pioneered that product coming to market, got funded at Y Combinator, and tapped into AI to start leveraging for advertising and creating Facebook ads. I was like, hey, let me give this a shot for like Amazon listings, because I needed some support there. And that was really the first step into like even playing around with this tool and like developing a template on top of OpenAI.
Nice. And then, so then Conversion AI somehow was connected to, or that became Jasper eventually?
Yeah, just a few rebrands. Conversion AI was just what they called it for the sake of it. And then after they started building a community in Facebook, which was kind of that first group of people that started using it, they decided to go with the Jarvis branding, and develop the logo and kind of position it as your friendly writing assistant, to kind of help connect with people. And I think it was a really smart move to get some traction at the beginning. Obviously, Marvel coming in and saying no to that caused the decision to rebrand again to Jasper, which is what it is now. And so I'm assuming it's what it's going to continue to be for some time.
Yeah. So I remember you telling a very brief story about kind of the trepidation you had in making that first payment for Jasper when you were first getting started.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first $100, I guess, to just like get the ball rolling with whatever unlimited credits, or whatever some ridiculous amount of credits that we were just putting a number on it to get things going. But yeah, it was an interesting time because I had a lot of time on my hands, but not necessarily a lot of dollars in my bank account. I was like really trying to like just make ends meet on the freelance copywriting side. And you know how like the waves can go as a freelancer, and
Yes.
figuring out where you need to outsource what to maybe, all the different things that go with juggling an agency of that age. I think we're seeing a lot of things that people wish would have been around like right a few years ago, even in the coaching space and the freelance space, is anything, and just like client fulfillment, communications, just handling everything that goes into running a business, if it's just you or a small team. I think like a lot of people are seeing where AI is really helping, kind of like raise the bar in a lot of cases.
So one of the things I think is very valuable as a lesson that you learned early is that although you're working in a technology space, it was the personal relationships that kind of got you started in the right direction.
Yeah. And I mean, I think like that was part of what was exciting about the early days in that Jarvis community back then, was that it was like a very, like everyone was really excited. It was coming right off of like December 2020, like January. I mean, the world was still kind of in a weird spot, but and everyone was, you know, connecting online, and in this Facebook group, it was kind of like, oh, we're all these like pioneers, like trying to like figure out this new AI technology. It's a secret, let's not let like let's figure it out. And then doing like events and workshops and that sort of thing with that small group, I think was like the catalyst for what started our own community as an offshoot for people that just wanted to go deeper and deeper and be a part of what was going on in the conversation. And so, I mean, the community, the relationships, the direct connections, I mean, I think that's been it's going to continue to be a constant and like where we're going to be going. But I see that a lot. You know, the trend, I guess, so to speak, is just like coaches and consultants and folks like yourself, like creating these really tight knit groups of folks that you're able to interact with in a much more effective way online. And now a lot more of these tools like what we're using in Circle makes it so easy to have your own really customizable community without needing to like spend a lot of money in building your own, you know, all of the tech that goes behind like this. It's a lot easier now, that barrier to entry to building communities where you can build those like more direct communication lines with your customers and your audience.
And I firmly believe that you're living and pursuing the new paradigm of what online marketing or internet marketing is going to be. It's going to be, you know, content marketing has been around a long time, but you put out a lot of content. All right. Collaboration's been around a long time with affiliate marketing and JV partners, but you're finding a different way to do that. That's more, you know, human, finding experts in other areas, not just making it business transactional, but making it true collaboration, and then building the community, which is a slower, longer process, but, you know, has much deeper value long term. So yeah, I just want to recognize, you know, that you've picked up on this trend very early on, and these are not new ideas, but when you combine the three of them together, they become very powerful. And I think as we are more technology enabled, the more we're going to put the value on the human relationships. And I think you've got that great balance between the tech and the human side of it. So I just wanted to recognize that. And you know, was that fully intentional, or did you just kind of naturally fall into that? What's your thinking behind that?
You know, and thank you for that, Bruce. And I wouldn't say like it was something that I went at intentionally. From a sense that like the amount of content I was making for my business prior to starting to work with Conversion AI, Jasper, at the beginning was like next to nothing. And like, it was really frustrating when like you have ideas, but it's hard to articulate them. And then you get stuck in the day-to-day of just doing the work to like, again, like do the client work and do all of this sort of stuff. And then you're lacking on kind of like what you're able to create for yourself. And so when I realized I was able to write a short book with it in a very short amount of time, just a few days, and like that was inspiration for others, that was like an aha moment. That was the first time that something like I felt like really clicked and shifted from just like solely like a service-based agency approach where it was more transactional with the clients. And of course, like it, you know, it's money and it pays the bills, but it's not it wasn't necessarily something I felt like that connection to directly, because it was like selling just stuff on Amazon. And I wasn't, I think at that stage, like fully committed to that. This is like the end all like business. Like I was kind of getting burnt out from that model being my core focus, which is frustrating because I was good at it and I could still do it well if I wanted to, but I felt more drawn to like that one-on-one sort of coaching and helping people get results from a tool that is brand new. We're all still trying to get our hands dirty with like all of this AI. And that was just a really fun time initially to be able to help dive in and learn this stuff together. And from that, I realized that while this might not necessarily be the fastest way to do this stuff, the more consistent and the larger our community grows as a fundamental, like this is like our core customer base. we're on like a subscription based model so that I at least know that there's some money coming in every month that allows me to create content to fulfill on it, but also gives me the resources to invest back into growing the community. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, and it's still not easy. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of attention and a lot of things on that front. But it also opens me up to so many different relationships and opportunities that I never would have had before, investing the time in the community. So it's definitely paying off and well worth it. But it depends on like also how you value what is worth. Worth isn't always like dollars necessarily. It could be like the relationship capital that, you know, even us, like that we're exchanging, that we're getting on calls for, and how we're helping each other grow in this space. Like you get that kind of connection from a community, and the more you're investing and committing and showing up, you know, I think the more that your audience and your customers and your clients realize that, and, you know, they'll be showing up as well.
Very nice. Tell us how you're using Jasper and or Chat GPT every day in your, you know, your business day. I know you got tons of things going on, but just you know, walk us through what that looks like for you right now.
Yeah, so a lot of idea like processing and brainstorming. That's probably like the majority of how I interact with the tools on a daily basis. And content processing. So taking an interview like this or a sound bite from a walk, and I have an idea and I want to talk it through, is processing the content that you've already created from an idea inside of like Chat GPT. Yeah, I think that's one of like the ways that I think in terms of approaching content with all this AI is it's like great to start from zero, like a blank page, and get the ball rolling. But it's also great to take something that you might never like find the gold nuggets in, and then pull those out and have that feed additional insights right there. So, you know, using, you know, some certain like little features in Jasper, depending on what I'm creating, but like a lot of idea, here's the content I have, let's pull some stuff out of it, make something very quickly that like in a matter of like minutes that might have taken, you know, an hour for me to process manually in the past. And so like that's the most consistent way.
Nice. I you know, in our conversations, especially with Ofer in that class of Generative AI University, I've come to figure out that there's 3 ways that it's used primarily: automate, a way to automate some of the things we do, to accelerate some of the things we do, not fully automated, but be able to accelerate them, and lastly, to augment some of the things we do. And so I think you're talking about using it more often for augmenting your thought processes in addition to accelerating. So that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So what would you tell, you know, almost everyone attending here today is a solo coach or consultant, and, you know, all different varying degrees of tech savvy, but all of them, you know, are logging into Chat GPT or Jasper and trying to do some stuff. So what would you tell them about, you know, the best way they should start using AI for their businesses?
I think the first thing that comes to mind anytime this question comes up is identifying like what is the type of content that you're already producing like now, or that you should be producing but you're not. And in terms of like top priority, like if like writing a blog post every day is the biggest needle mover in your business, like what does that process and workflow look like? And then once you know where the end result is of that, back up and like kind of reverse engineer where you can like augment, accelerate, you know, add in AI to help speed up that process. And so like starting there with something that's very like real and happening right now before kind of getting into like oh, these are all the different tools and otherwise. And so like I think emails are like a really simple like way to approach it. Like how long are you spending responding to emails? If someone sends you an email that's maybe like a paragraph or 2 that's like a relatively dense email, like that takes like mental bandwidth to respond back to. I'll sometimes do that if someone sends me a really in-depth email. I'll pop that in Chat GPT in some cases and say like, hey, pull out some of the key bullet points from this email, and so I can kind of clean it up. And then like, hey, so like, cool, like we'll write a response in a casual tone that says X, Y, or Z. And then now instead of taking maybe 15 minutes to draft a response, it took me 3 minutes of time to do that. So, I mean, that's just like one way, email, we're all most everyone uses email these days, but fundamentally, like, what's your workflow look like right now? And then how do you get good at that first and foremost? Figure out what best tools work best, dial that in, and then kind of move on to the next one, just to make sure you're not, testing a lot of things, but leaving them less buttoned up in terms of like your actual workflow can sometimes cause a little bit more clutter that slows you down rather than speeds you up.
And I think you bring up a really good point in that it's not just the time we save. Okay, so going from 15 minutes to 3 minutes is not a huge amount of time, but you mentioned before the brain power to process that. Okay, and maybe it's just me getting up in years and age, but it's not so much for me about time management as it is managing the brain power, because everything that I'm doing requires full brain power for me to do, and writing takes a lot of energy to do. And if this can make that writing so much easier, then that just gives me more energy to work on more things and get more things done. So I don't know, does that resonate with you? What's your take on that? Is it energy more than time?
I think it's both. Like, right, like time, I would say, is our most valuable asset that all of us have. And if we can get that time back, like, we still have like energy that is going in certain areas, and like our mental bandwidth, and like if we don't have any capacity to think or to get ourselves outside of things that are taking up any sort of like bandwidth, like, we're allocating our resources and our energy and our mental time to certain projects. And that's where, if you say like, hey, we just like, here's a podcast, I need you to go through and identify all the key highlights that we want you to chop up. I want you to write a blurb about this podcast. I want you to pull all the insights and then create 10 Twitter threads and also create a TikTok script for it. Like, if I told you to go and do that, Bruce, without AI, like, does that even like sound appealing to you? Like going and doing that yourself one way or the other? Like, my guess is probably not. If it is, then like great for you. But
I'd say
like
see you next week.
But the point is, like, now, like, there's probably an AI tool that can help you do all of just that. And I ran across one literally today that could almost verbatim do what I just said from a podcast transcript. Like, that makes it a lot easier to spend the time shooting the content, and then knowing that you have at least a tool or a series of tools that you can put in place afterwards, that instead of an hour or 2 or 3 of mental bandwidth and content production, if not just of you, of your team's time that has to break that content down, right? If you can trim that up, you're not only saving yourself the mental bandwidth and those resources, but you're also saving that of your teams. So now your team is becoming more effective and more efficient inside of this process, along with yourself. But I see the question about what that tool is. Let me tell you, because I haven't even tested it out yet. I just heard about it today. It's called Cast Magic. So I'll share that inside of the app. But by the way it was described to me just 2 hours ago, this is a really great tool for anybody that is doing like podcasts or any sort of like audio content, which, like, personally, I process content better if I talk it. And I'll just like talk dictation wise to Chat GPT, and then like have it like, and then rephrase it after that, just so I can get my thoughts out and articulate them a lot easier than just sitting there and typing, for me personally.
Very nice. Thanks, Darb. And put on your or pull out your crystal ball and tell us what you think the next 3 to 5 years looks like. Particularly for internet marketing and or solopreneurs running their businesses.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more solopreneur type businesses, whether by like necessity or by choice, coming out and being a lot more successful and automated and really, providing value in ways that maybe required a bigger team before, but also allowing the solopreneur, the human that's operating these machines, the ones that are really effective with how they can communicate and how they can keep up with the changes in the trends, going to be able to run, 6-figure, 7, maybe even 8-figure businesses just through the power of these automations. Not saying that that's where everyone would be going, but now a solo coach is going to be able to do the work of even today of a full content production team, depending on the level of content you're looking to produce, like with a matter of a few subscriptions, monthly subscriptions from some of these AI tools. So just think about that accelerated a lot over the next few years. And then, being able to clone yourself and do it in such a way that you're still like building those relationships with businesses. Again, I think that the people that are building and maintaining and growing those relationships, even through like AI augmentation, are going to see more success as their community, as their tribe continues to grow around the value that they're, putting out there in the world.
Nice. So I think all of us are feeling a bit overwhelmed just watching the news of the hundreds or thousands of tools coming out every day, and it's dizzying. Any advice on how to keep up? Do we just pick a few and try to learn them well, or do we try to pay attention to everything? What's your thinking, and how are you approaching this?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I mean, there's a lot of overwhelm and just like how fast everything is moving right now. And so like my answer stems back from knowing your workflow and where would I start with anything is like, yes, there's a lot, and be very intentional with like the time you're dedicating to exploring other tools. Cause again, protecting our focus and like our bandwidth and our capacity to invest time and even just researching new tools can get bloated very quickly because you can get down that rabbit hole. Not to say that not to explore, but maybe be more intentional with the time that you're dedicating to exploring, and then even more intentional with the time you're dedicating to choosing the right tool stack that works in your flow. Maybe it's a mixture of Chat GPT with Jasper, with Midjourney, with Cast Magic, right? Like maybe there's this like combination that you need to discover. But don't just feel like every single tool that you bring into the equation is magically going to make your workflow better. It might actually hurt you. So just the intention behind it, I think, just be aware that it could be easy to get distracted. And so keeping that
and don't
level of
necessarily
focus.
feel like we have to watch the news every day of all the new things coming out, because it can drain your brain as well too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, excellent. So we've talked about this with Ofer a little bit about the in the past we had generations like, baby boomers and Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, millennials, et cetera. And he's come up with this concept that there's going to be, those who are AI empowered and those who are AI controlled. Or controlled by AI. So talk a little bit about your thoughts about what this new AI era is going to look like and what the generations are going to look like.
Yeah, and I think coming from I'm trying to think back to this however many weeks ago it was, but it's like, the Gen X, Gen Y, like all the baby boomers, like all the different generations, but thinking about like generation AI, like Gen AI is like the mind and how you are adapting to this stuff, because no matter whether you're, young or old, like the way that we operate is changing, and the way that we're communicating and leveraging these tools and this new technology is going to continue to very rapidly evolve. And so I think with that in mind, this is not the time to just sit back and like watch things just like pass you by, right? I mean, of course people will let that happen, but this is also the time to take action and like be out there. And as the train, that we're talking about, that train that's picking up speed with Ofer and 3,000 miles per hour, 4,000 miles per hour. How do we keep up? Well, we have the opportunity to just let it watch us by and let it pass us up. And, people will take that. There's also going to be people that are going to be running and staying up and consistently, being able to adapt and keep up with that change. And, those that don't, and those that let it pass them by, or aren't willing or aren't able to adapt, I think what you're going to see is just maybe an extension of what we already see, is like the part of the population that's just going to continue to stay glued to your TV, to not be willing to change, to not want to become a better person, to not, adapt and just be a couch potato. Well, there's probably going to be a number of other ways, including Apple's new VR headset, to just be a couch potato and not, do something with it. But there's also going to be people that see that new VR set and say, oh, I can pair that with this new AI thing, and now I can do this, and I can create something new from it. So like, what's your like perspective? Like, are you willing to like learn how to create and innovate and make a change with this tech, or do you just want to be a bystander? And that choice is up to you. Now, not to say that it's going to be easy to make that decision and stay out ahead, and there's going to be a lot of change, but personally, that's the path that I'm going to be choosing. And people like yourself and those of you that are on this call, I think, are all on that forward edge of just where things are going. And at least we're being a part of the conversation now. We're not just shying away with fear, and not being willing to like learn and adapt in this stage.
Nice. I like to think of AI forces you to either reskill or de-skill. You either turn down your brain, or you figure out how to turn up your brain and learn these new skills of how to adapt with it. So I think that's really good advice. So you've just launched or about to launch your first app.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're familiar with what we do at the AI Author, a lot of it's like research and development and exploring new tools and new like AI and Web3 technologies for how do we use it in the world of content creation. And one of the things that we've consistently continued to build on is that of AI recipes, which are essentially like a longer series of like prompts of instructions to the AI to then kind of execute and build on. And nowadays, it's becoming increasingly easier and more simple to, even if you have a very simple prompt, like write a blog post about dog training 101, well, you could now go and basically plug that directly into OpenAI and put a nice, pretty front-facing like form on the front end. So like, give me an idea about what you like about dogs. And you could have your own app in literally a matter of minutes with some of these tools. And one of them, the one I'm using, is called Hubble.ai. There's a few others I've seen out there. I haven't played with any other ones, but like quite literally, once you get your like kind of foot around when you get into there, you're like, oh, it's really that simple to like turn a prompt into an app. And so I turned three, I guess, at this point. We're doing a workshop this week on them right now. 3 of our like probably like longer, more extensive prompts, recipes from the past that we've developed into what we're calling the $100 million buyer's blueprint. And basically like 3 different like landing like pages of an app that are going about creating that. And it takes a little bit of time, like maybe anywhere between probably like 4 to 6 minutes per generation. But the outputs are relatively like on point with the same type of stuff you would get from Chat GPT, because it's literally built on the same, the GPT-4 stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, it's been kind of cool to explore that and, create an app on AI. And like, I was like, this is that easy now to just go and create your own little app that you could use for yourself. Or, I mean, a lot of people are making their own custom apps for, clients, or turning them into their own, software businesses. Really cool tool, really simple and easy to set up. Not to make this like a sales pitch for that tool in particular, but like even that, like you can train like an app like that. You could train it your entire like knowledge database. For example, if you were like wanted it to like reference like a podcast transcript, you can create an app that you just upload a podcast transcript and then ask it questions from that podcast transcript, or tell you to create a series of different things. I mean, I think like the possibilities of these type of tools is just going to get, more and more out there with what we can see. And so, I mean, that was one of the things where I started dabbling in a little bit, like not too serious, but I was like, I found out I could put the entire buyer's blueprint recipe in one go. I was like, oh, well, there we go. Like that's just for me. I'm like, I would hide this from the world if I didn't want everyone else to get awesome content and value out of it. So that's why we got it. I'm happy to give you guys a link to that if you guys want to give it a run yourself.
Absolutely.
It was kind of acting up a little bit earlier today. So like it is a minimum viable product edition as of right now.
And I think the minimum viable product is a really important concept in today's world where speed is so important, right? So talk a little bit about minimum viable business, minimum viable product, minimum viable anything we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And
So
how it relates to speed.
yeah, I mean, the minimum viable product, I can't think of where the idea initially came from, but
I think the startup E-Myth, the book called the E-Myth, maybe.
That sounds about right. It was like the idea in the startup world that what's like the very minimal version of this product at like its bare bones, like what is somebody willing to like basically pay for and like start to be your first initial customers. And so like that's been a principle that like a lot of startups have like used as, like a guiding principle of like, okay, well, how do we get to this point and like make that for the customer and then move on to the next step? And it's really easy to like get distracted and create all sorts of stuff for a product that your customers don't actually need. Like if you could strip everything away, what's the bare minimum of what that is? And it's also a way to just get a lot of feedback and iteration off of from that initial core group of like founding members. And so I remember back whenever we were getting started with Jasper, we were doing the first like 7-day book challenge, and I don't remember honestly. It could have been me. It could have been a number of people inside of the group. This is something along the lines of like minimum viable book as the idea of what we were really going towards, and we kind of like took that and ran with it because I think it made a lot of sense that like your book doesn't need to be this New York Times bestseller. It needs to be like what can speak to the person that you're looking to, like the number one person you're looking to attract or like articulate a message to. Like, what does that look like? Is it 50 pages? Is it 20 pages? Is it 500 pages? Is it 100 pages? Like, can you say what you need to say and then just not fill it with anything additional? Right. So like you get that out there, and then it turns out that can end up being a book that lands you some consulting business. And that's what this was like. I mean, it's tiny. This is the Amazon Copywriting Secrets book, but this got me a few new clients in a time where I very much needed clients. And it was because it was different and it was something I could send, and it got my message across to the right people. And so take that to anything, an app. What does a community look like? Is it 5 people that you can work with on a weekly basis? What does a coaching program look like? What does anything you're doing in your business look like as that minimum viable product if you haven't like used it or like gotten it out there, or you need to test something like on that front. And so that's kind of the idea behind the app in the first place. Like I already know that the recipe works, and we're doing a Q&A after this call for our last part of the workshop to kind of dive in a little bit about like how we built the app. But like it's getting so much easier nowadays. So like create your own app, use AI, and like launch it and get it out there. Like the speed to getting that feedback is that's where like the wins are going to happen, because not every idea is going to be a home run, but what steps are you taking to solidifying that idea and finding the right people that are going to be your best customers from it, and how fast can you do that? And we can flip the coin very fast nowadays. It's only going to get faster.
So Darby, we're going to coin a new phrase here: minimum viable everything.
Minimum viable everything. I like it.
Okay, so that's our mindset going forward, is minimum viable everything. Great. I'm going to ask you one last question. What would be the most important thing that you'd tell coaches and consultants you should do to make sure they remain visible and relevant in this AI era? So visible and relevant being kind of the key words there.
Yeah. I mean, I think like just being consistent in producing content, publishing content on platforms where your audience is, and like you want to grow your audience, right? Is that LinkedIn? Is that Twitter? Is that YouTube? TikTok? Doesn't really matter where it is. Could be Medium, right? Doesn't really matter where it is, but like consistency and like just getting your thoughts and your ideas out there, and obviously like keeping it relevant as stuff is happening in the world. But and you'd be surprised, I guess, like how many people are still like completely foreign to this. Like I guess I kind of am, but then I'm like, okay, I'm also like right in like the thick of everything, so I forget like not everyone's breathing this every day. But also like you could be several years ahead in regular years, which in AI years, right, a few years down the road, if someone just comes in that's a competitor in your industry, but they haven't been using AI and you have been, well, the numbers are going to show because your content's going to be out there. You're going to be more consistent. You're going to be, hopefully your content's going to be engaging more with your audience because you're using AI to help you, coming up with like the type of content that's going to best resonate with that specific person. Right. And so it's giving us the ability to not only create content better, but also like the more content and the more relevant content, the more conversations that we're having because of that content is going to lead to more opportunities, which if you're a coach or consultant, more opportunities usually means you got more, opportunity to land a gig for speaking or, land a new client or, what other sort of like revenue driving activity is your content coming back to? Yeah, I mean, I would just say like start creating.
Awesome. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. I don't need to ask you where to find you because my partner Guin has been doing a fabulous job of promoting all your links in the chat over here. So
Thanks,
you're already well promoted within this group here. Just pointing out the book in the background there, Create Content with AI. That's available both on your website and on Amazon. Of course, the AIauthor.com. And thanks for sharing that link to test out your app as well, too. So that's awesome, Darby. We appreciate it. Any final words? We sure appreciate you joining us today.
No, thank you guys for having me. Hope you found this maybe helpful, useful, got some ideas from it. I think to leave you guys with anything would just be to just get out there and test, play around and, have fun, practice, and just figure out how you can make your life easier with one of these tools.
Thanks, Darb. This is all awesome.
Yeah. So what did you think, Chantal? This has been so amazing and super informative, right?
Goodness, Guin, I cannot agree more. I was just so glad to be able to share Darby's presentation on the podcast today. It's been really fun kind of re-listening, rewatching it again, because we were both there live. And so I know after everyone listens to this episode, people are going to want to connect with him, like probably already like, stop talking and let me know how I can connect with this dude and learn more. Yeah, and learn more about the AI author and all of the tools that he mentions.
Indeed. Yeah. So we've got those links, of course. The easiest one to remember for Darby is the AIauthor.com. So of course, we'll have that in show notes. Be sure to check that out. And of course, he mentioned frequently, and of course, everyone was really curious about his MVP or minimum viable product app, aka the Buyer's Blueprint, and he's giving us totally free access. So get in, check out that app. And he also shared that AI app that he built that particular app on, which is called Hubble. So we'll share a link so that you can play around in Hubble yourself if you're interested. We want to thank Darby again for allowing us to share this masterclass. And we want to ask you, our listeners, what your takeaways from this interview and episode are today. If you will, please share the episode with someone you think would benefit from it, somebody who's getting into AI or who is interested in learning more about it, and also leaving a podcast review, of course, at ratethispodcast.com/CALYL. Always appreciated. You can quickly and easily leave a review from any device by grabbing that link in the show notes.
Yes, and we have a special announcement to roll out. This is huge, and we will be doing, I'm sure, a full episode on it with Bruce. But for right now, what we want to do for our audience is let you know a little bit about it, tell you how to get more information, and if you apply, you as a listener of the Create a Life You Love podcast, you're going to unlock a free 14-day trial on us. And so Guin, myself, and Bruce just launched a CRM, like all-in-one software for coaches.
Absolutely.
like, this is mind blowing, huge, amazing. As the words come out of my mouth, I still like out of body experience. I'm like, how did we do that? Like,
Yeah, it's more like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Chantal is the amazing, brilliant genius, frankly, behind this amazing all-in-one business solution for coaches. We call it Coach Connector. And thanks to Chantal, who did the research, who built the thing, did all the things, and really brought it to bear. So we are now beta testing it, and we've gone through a very successful beta program. We have some really happy coaches signed up who are now taking advantage. And if you want to kind of understand what this thing is, what Coach Connector does, it's like having Wix or Squarespace combined with HubSpot, combined with lead pages, combined with Kajabi, combined with Hootsuite, plus more. I mean, it's your social planner, your CRM, as Chantal mentioned, your website, your funnels, courses. So it's really is a truly all-in-one solution. We didn't leave anything out. It's all in there. And the powerful part of this thing is that it really does, we always talk about automation and systems being the real key to being able to scale your coaching business. That is exactly what Coach Connector is designed to do and what it's a powerhouse at. It is just an amazing solution. Like, I can't think of anything else to call it, but we'll be supplying a link so that you can check it out. You can get more information. There's a video there, and it tells you all the things that Coach Connector does. But because you're a part of our podcast community, as Chantal mentioned, you'll enjoy a 14-day free trial on this amazing platform. And if you decide that it is something that would align with your goals, your business, your needs, we will also be extending 2 months free for the annual subscription for Coach Connector. So super excited.
It is. It's really a vision and a passion that we all had. We all are coaches, and we've all gone through just all the barriers. And so we are doing what we can to remove those barriers from other coaches so they can focus on what they have a passion to do, because I don't have a passion to learn lead pages and build my website, and then learn MailChimp, and then build out workflows, and then learn Calendly and get all my schedule set up, and then learn like all these things. And meanwhile,
and then Zapier to make sure they all work together.
Yeah. And they're all a monthly fee. And so now any traction I do make in my coaching business, I'm paying to all these people. And so the idea of Coach Connector is I've been having a blast getting my business over there and being like, oh, Calendly, I don't need you anymore. Bye. Oh, later, social scheduler. Yep, I'm going to take my $15 a month back and invest it over here for a much, much cheaper price. And everything's together. Everything talks. Yes, there's a learning curve to it, but it's one thing to learn, and then you're there.
Exactly. And all of the training is included. So there are training videos that go along with it, so that anytime you need to learn something that you're working in, it's literally a click of a button. And there's also 24/7 support, so that if you're in the training video, it's not getting you what you need, you have help right there all the time. So that is such a bonus in my book.
Oh, 100%. I use it all the time. They're very familiar with me.
I know MailChimp doesn't do that, and I know Lead Pages doesn't do that. And unless you're on the Kajabi premium plan, you're probably not getting that kind of help and support. You do with Coach Connector.
Yes. So Thanks for listening to us ramble about our new baby. We're so excited to introduce it to the world. And so there's your brief intro. We'll go more in depth in other episodes, but head over to the link we're going to put in the show notes. Get more information, get informed. If it seems like a good fit, there's an application process, and it's a no commitment. And so that just lets you give us a little bit information so that we can be like, is where we're at in the building of Coach Connector going to meet your needs, yes or no? Because we don't want to waste your time if, based on the information you put in there, we're like not the right fit for you right now. We're going to continue growing and evolving and expanding. So yeah, just apply. There's nothing.
Yeah, no commitment. But if you do and you want to get in and see how this works, you'll get a 14-day free trial and at least get to see a whole different kind of coaching business solution, one that really addresses all the things.
So thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you for your ongoing feedback and support, and enjoy the journey.
Bye everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Create a Life You Love podcast. We would love to hear from you about your biggest takeaways. Share them with us on Facebook or Instagram at Create a Life You Love Coaching. If you love this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. If you are ready to build aligned and sustainable momentum without overwhelm and burnout, we invite you to apply for the Create a Life You Love membership on our website, createalifeyoulovecoaching.com/membership. That's it for now. Enjoy the journey.